What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Clear the Cash. I'm your host, Nate Liss. You can find me on Twitter at @AnOutrageJew. And the guy to the side of me, if you're watching the video, is Jesse Bak. You can find him on Twitter at planet_fatness. As always, please follow him. We've been getting more and more commentary from people that are listening to this show, and I'm glad that we are moving the market like we are as far as enthusiasm alone. It's so great to see so many people all the time saying, hey, you guys got me interested again. I wasn't doing this forever. I know Jesse's getting tons of messages. We've had lots of people join Patreon, coming over there to talk cards, to ask questions. Jesse and I plan to do more live shows. So if you're interested in getting a question answered live or to see the hamster wheel turning in real time, that is an option as well. So consider that. But Jesse, thank you for making time once again. I know we've got a blazing snowstorm where you're at. Is that correct?
Yeah, folks up here call it a nor'easter. So we have a huge storm that is, I don't know, it's covering probably 3 or 4 states at a time. But right now it's stretching from about Ohio to well into the New England area, and it's hitting Philly pretty hard. So only reason we're able to do a full show like this tonight is just because I was able to go home from work a little bit early, just because the roads are just like undrivable right now, basically. So yeah, it's not looking great in Philly or the
Surprisingly, your connectivity is actually better tonight than usual. I don't know if it's the
yeah, we
Right.
need a snowstorm every once in a while to reset.
Yeah, that's what we
everything.
need.
Yeah.
We need the worst, inclement weather possible for you to have the most absurd levels of bandwidth and internet speed ever. Jesse, question: do you have an animal? More specifically, do you have a dog?
I will say yes. He does not live with me right now, but I consider my girlfriend's dog my dog as well, because I basically bought him for her. But in so many ways, yes, I do have
So
a dog.
dog purchased in all card profits, of course. And Jesse, let me tell you, I have a German Shepherd. She's incredibly active. She's a big dog. And we thought, hey, for Christmas, Santa is going to get her a Christmas toy. We thought we need to give her something to keep her active. Okay, she's a herding dog. She's busy. Inadvertently, we purchased what I consider the most annoying dog toy of all time. And I really want to show you this right now because I'm going to go on Amazon. I'm going to give it the worst review of all time because we didn't break it out until recently. And I can hear this thing from the second story of the house all the way in the office, and it actually aggravates my dog so much that she gets angry and she throws it down the hall. It's heavy. This thing is the most annoying toy, so I'm going to pull it up right now. I'm going to try and keep it quiet. Jesse, can you see this right here? It's just a green ball. It's perforated, but little do you know that when this ball starts to roll, this is the single most annoying toy of all time.
What gerbil?
There is no gerbil in this, Jesse, but this right here, it's called the Wobble Wag Giggle. And let me tell you, if you want to break up a happy home, buy this toy. Introduce it to your family in the middle of the night. I guarantee it will wake you up. It might be the single biggest piece of crap that you can buy, but it's going to last a long time. My dog cannot defeat this thing. So
What's that?
it's for everybody we're going to pump the toy market for dogs now. The Wobble Wag Giggle.
Your Amazon review is going to single-handedly crash that dog toy.
That's right. If you want an annoying dog toy,
Yeah.
This is it. So let me get rid of that, Jesse. So listen, that's an annoyance. But I feel like you're more annoyed by what I'm about to transition to. Vegas Dave recently made a comment over Instagram, and it set you ablaze. And more or less, the quote is, the sports card market will collapse just like the subprime mortgage industry did. Jesse, what are your thoughts when you hear that?
So I think we've been talking about Gary Vee quite a bit on this show, just about every show, and We've found our anti-Gary V of the sports card hobby. So, what's kind of ironic about Vegas Dave saying this is that he's been hyping up the sports card market since the beginning of 2020 because he was buying Derek Carr Topps Chrome PSA 10s left and right, rookie cards, of course. And he was hyping him up to no end. Obviously, he's called Vegas Dave for a reason. He lives in Las Vegas. He thought Derek Carr was going to be a fan favorite with the Raiders moving to Vegas, and he hyped him up to no end. I'm sure he profited on probably all of his Derek Carr rookie cards. If he held on to all of them, didn't sell a single one, he's a fool, because that's kind of a ridiculous buy to put hundreds of thousands of dollars into. But basically, he's comparing like in more or less. He said the card market is going to collapse in the next 24 to 36 months. I don't know where he's getting that time frame. He doesn't know when the market is going to boom or bust, just like I don't know when a certain part of the market is going to boom or bust, or if the market altogether busts. It seems like, honestly, he probably had a deal gone wrong or something. Somebody must have wronged him who was a longtime collector, or maybe just another guy with just a pile of money that and looking to get into cards and maybe did him dirty on a deal or something. Like Vegas Dave's birthday was, I think, in early to mid December, and he advertised endlessly on YouTube of breaking a box of 86 87 Fleer basketball and basically donating the proceeds of this break to charity. So, I mean, it's pretty clear, like he's been pretty involved in the card market this entire time since late 2019, early 2020. I don't again, something bad must have happened, but in order for him to come out and say this, obviously, I mean, Vegas Dave, he's not, the most humble guy. He is a showy guy. He wants to, make headlines however he can. So if he's seeing people left and right are, hyping up the sports card market and posting their own collections and posting pictures of all-time sales records, and maybe he just wanted to make him separate himself somehow, and he's saying, oh, mark my words, in the next 24 to 36 months this sports card market's going to collapse altogether. And I was telling you pre-show, I think in every successful market, you're going to have your naysayers. You're gonna have people that are, and the opposite. You're gonna have people saying that this thing's going to the moon and we're all going to be millionaires or billionaires. And I mean, I don't, I'm not. I kind of fall in between. I don't really side with one way or the other. Cards are, honestly, they're at this point. I'm probably in the hobby for life as a collector. Maybe even when cards aren't as hot, I might not be looking at the investment side as much, but right now they're really hot. I am looking at the investment side. I want to set aside money that I'm going to need for, later in life, or even in the near term. So, you know, cards are going to be hot for a while. I don't know where he's getting this 24 to 36 month window from. And more, uh, I guess more importantly, the more rare and expensive and iconic cards are only going to go up over time. I told you numerous times about Luca Prism based PSA 10s. There's about 16,000 of them in existence right now. That card is probably like, 5 years from now, I can't see that card being like $50,000 or something. It's already pretty expensive. It's already, 1,500, 1,600 or something. Maybe in 5 years or 10 years, that card's not going to be worth 15 or 1600, because there's just so many of them. Scarcity is an important thing in this hobby and in the card market. And iconic cards are going to be a thing. That card is probably going to be iconic during the next boom. That card is definitely going to go up, but maybe over the course of, if 5, 10, however many years, maybe base cards aren't going to be worth as much as they are right now. But we are in a hot period right now, so we got to take advantage and maybe buy certain cards while they're cheap in the off season to be able to flip them mid season or at the beginning of the season when the hype is really high, so that we can be able to afford the much nicer, more scarce and desirable cards. So I mean, honestly, I think he's just kind of seeking attention here. Yeah, he's probably talking out of his ass. Um, yeah, there's not much, probably not much else I can say about this for now.
Jesse, that in the industry is what we call a teaser, what you did at the last part there. That's foreshadowing, if you will. I mean, you look at heritage auctions, you look at golden auctions, both of these groups are selling millions and millions of cards monthly at this point, right? We're seeing these Jordan sell. We're seeing, I mean, Steph Curry cards sell. We're seeing older Mickey Mantle cards sell, everything of every variety. But like you said, right now, there's a big emphasis on these greatest of all time players of different sports. I know you in particular, I don't want to say the name to blow up your spot, but you were looking at a throwback card, a rare card. I mean, even to the point where you were looking at a PSA 7, 6, 7. Trying to think of
Honestly, I'm trying to remember.
I don't want to blow this one up for you. It was I'm gonna have to go away from this now. I don't want to say it because I don't want to push people into your market because it was a good grab.
We'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk
people
post
are gonna,
show or put her on the
yeah,
Patreon.
they're like, what kind of
something.
PSA 6? Yeah, if you guys want to know what I was talking about, let's go to Patreon. We'll talk about it. So, okay, the Vegas Dave thing set you ablaze. You've transitioned and made a great point. So this GOAT market, the greatest of all time, all these big name players, retired players, deceased players for that matter, their cards are on fire right now. And there is a limited market for those people. There are people out there with money, but we go to an entirely different tier when we start talking about some of the cards that you're talking about. And we had Rob on the podcast a couple episodes ago, and I encourage everybody to listen to that if they have concerns about longevity of the market or they're curious what will happen in a downturn. And much like Jesse said, Rob shared the same sentiment, basically that the rare cards will always have a place. And that's really the important part about this. There's so many Lucas out there, and it's something that I myself am trying to get better about. But the hard part about owning a card that's going to survive the nuclear bomb, if there ever is one, is that they're more expensive, right? It's a little harder to get into, but there are ways to work your way up the ladder. And one of the ways to do that, Jesse, is to zig when they zag. So the GOAT market's on fire. So what does that mean to you necessarily?
First of all, before I answer your question, I just realized what card you were talking about. Oh, that I know. I'm a dingus. Yeah, that card is long gone. Yeah, it probably doubled the. I don't know exactly what happened to the last sale or if it didn't go through, but maybe the seller just got so pissed off that he relisted it for double.
But now that you remember this, now I have to go back to it. Jesse, you went so deep into the analytic weeds that you realized that there was this crazy number correlation going on. We might as well bring this up.
There was a very clear trend. So all right, I'm gonna say the card outright. There's no, I don't think I'm really pumping this former athlete's market because it's already been pumped enough. But Muhammad Ali cards, basically the greatest, arguably the greatest boxer, maybe fighter of any kind of all time. His cards, all of a sudden, they started to go up in value every grade, and that's been kind of correlating with the rest of the GOAT market. And I was looking at a PSA 1960 card that was considered Muhammad Ali's first ever card. So I guess it's technically his rookie card. It was hand cut out of a magazine. I think the magazine was called Hemmett's Journal or something. I was looking at a PSA 6 version because they're very tough to grade. These cards are hand cut. I don't know if that means that whoever bought the journal literally had to cut the card out themselves. So that, I mean, that's obviously going to complicate the grading and make the cards a much tougher grade. But the PSA 6 is, I believe, like a pop 23 or something. PSA 7s they get a little bit more scarce as you go up. I don't even know if any PSA 10s exist. But I think PSA 9s, there's like 6 of them. 8, there's probably around like 10 to 15. 7, there's around 20. And then 6, there's 23 of them. Yes, that Muhammad Ali's market, I think a PSA 4 sale went crazy. And all of a sudden, I think I compared the PSA 4, the 6, the 7, and the 8. and they were all going up by the same percentage with the last recorded sale on eBay. So I don't know if there is some sort of manipulation in that market, if someone is very strategically buying them and trying to move Muhammad Ali's market. That I'm not sure. But Nate, what did I say? Like, how much did I say it was going up by? Like, it was the same. It was like the same exact percentage for all of these cards. They were all going up by like like 82%, 81.6%, 82.2%. Like they were all going up by the same percentage. And that just, I don't know. I don't know if I uncovered a conspiracy theory. You told me to watch out for
Yeah,
the Illuminati. I don't know if
that's right.
I don't
I
know if
know.
anything's come out about it yet, but it probably will after this podcast
Two,
is released. But
well,
yeah, that was
two things. Number
wild.
one, there are so many text messages in our text message stream. There's no way that I can find where it was. But literally, you were so in it. You're like, man, I found it. Like, this one's going for like 10.685%. This one went for 10.84%. And I'm like, man, is he on an edible right now? How is this guy? Where are you right now? And then, yeah,
Yeah, it might have been 2 o'clock in the morning here, so I might have been a little delusional, but the math works.
no,
The
I
math, the
know. It
math
was
works. I'll
shocked.
tell
And I
you
was
that.
like, Jesse, look, lock your doors. The Illuminati is certainly going to look for you. This is rare. But the fact that you were looking at a PSA 6 was very interesting because I think to a lot of people, and I had this conversation with somebody else the other day, think about a PSA 6 and they're like, wow, that's a low grade. But I think they're ignoring just the vast rarity of the card altogether, which,
Yeah, the card is super rare. Like I think there's less than 200 total graded of what's considered to be Muhammad Ali's actual rookie card. Like that's pretty. I think that's pretty iconic. And the cards are finally, whether it be by market manipulation or not, they're finally getting their due right now.
Jesse, speaking of due, speaking of market manipulation, and we didn't even answer the original question. Because
Yeah.
I'm
Oh
about to
shit.
go
Yeah,
to
I
this.
got it.
We
Sorry,
went on
guys.
to this Illuminati thing. So let's circle back before we get to this. This is how loose this podcast is. This is why the people just keep tuning in. Jesse, so GOAT market's on fire. If you're the smart seller, if you're weaving your way around the landmines, tiptoeing through the field, stepping over the string that nobody else can see, what are you looking at right now? What players might you be buying?
So, yeah, Nate, you're absolutely right. The GOAT market is going absolutely crazy. LeBron rookie cards are 5 to 10xing over the course of a month and a half. Same goes for Jordan's, even going up at a crazier multiple. And even guys, I mean, those, in my opinion, those are the GOATs, and in a lot of people's opinions, those are the GOATs of basketball. But even guys like Shaq, I've sold all of my Shaq cards and Dwayne Wade cards. They were actually, I was down on those for a little bit because I bought them pretty early on in 2020 when everything was going up in value like crazy. So I was down for a little bit, but even cards, even their rookie cards are going up like crazy, and I was able to sell for pretty good profit. Um, I don't know if I don't know exactly what's going up, what's causing this GOAT market to go up. I don't know if it's more and more investment funds starting to, pour in millions and millions of dollars into this market, and more people are seeing how much money they're pouring into, really rare, iconic rookie cards of these all-time greats. So maybe people are basically saying, okay, I have $30,000 that I wanted to basically invest in the card market. I was going to buy all these cards, these 150, 200 cards, but instead of that, I'm just going to take the sure thing. I know this card has 5x'd over the last month and a half, but I feel like if I don't get this card right now, within the year. So people are almost like buying out of FOMO right now, these GOATs. So they're just emptying all kinds of stupid money just to get one card and keep it in their inventory and not touch it until it at least doubles or triples or whatever. So to kind of pivot out of that market, ironically, the young and current NBA superstars have actually dipped in price. Like Nate, I texted you a couple days ago because I wasn't even paying attention to that market myself for a little bit, just because I was so enamored by, like, I'm a LeBron collector. So, I'm going to be happy to see LeBron's prices rise. I'm like, I mean, I'm not looking to actively sell his cards. Like, in fact, I'm looking to buy, but it's good when the value of your collection goes up regardless. But to kind of pivot from there, I just started looking at Trey's cards, and I'm seeing all of his 2018 select cards in PSA 10 or any other grade. They're all basically down to what his price was at the end of the 2019-2020 season. Um, I mean, the Hawks they didn't start the season, great, but they're still a playoff team right now. I know they've only played like 18 games so far in the season, something like that, but they're still. I think they're going to be undoubtedly in the playoff picture. I don't know what seed they're gonna be, but I think they're just going to improve with time. Trey, I've been looking at his stats the last 7 games. He's been averaging like 33 points a game, and he's still getting shit. His cards are still getting shit on. Um, like his selects are, I told you pre-show, his 2018 select PSA 10s are at the price that I bought in. So which makes me want to buy more. Like they well over doubled at some point over the beginning of the season, like through the first 2 weeks of the season, to the point where I was considering selling, but I didn't. And now I'm seeing them dip back down to like the $300-$350 range, and that all of a sudden that's like a good red flag in my mind, because that presents a potential buying opportunity. um, I was looking at how the Hawks have been doing lately. I didn't even know this until I looked at it earlier today. They beat the Clippers a couple days ago, and the Clippers are arguably the best or second best team in the NBA right now, at least record wise. um, they just barely lost to the Nets, I think, last night or a couple nights ago in overtime, and we know how stacked the Nets are, especially after adding Harden. They keep beating the Hawks, keep beating teams like they're supposed to, though, like Minnesota and Detroit. So they're sixth in the East right now, but I think at least with Trey's offensive statistics, there's no way his selects are going to be in this $300 range for very long. And especially going into the playoffs, more and more people are going to start looking at modern, especially young superstars, to kind of try to get a piece of them going into the playoffs, because you never know, what kind of, if they hit a buzzer beater in the playoffs against, whoever, against Giannis or somebody. Um, so I'm definitely looking to buy into somebody like Trey now. Another guy who I've kind of been looking at him nonstop, I never really stopped, was Kawhi. So in Kawhi's last 5 games, he's been averaging just short of 30 points a game. The Clippers, believe it or not the Lakers, the Clippers are first in the West. They're tied for the league. The Clippers and the Lakers, I should say, are tied for the league lead um, in average game point differential at plus 7.7. So I think, just to before I say anything else about Kawhi, I find point game differentials basically more valuable than even the standings. So this is on average what that team's point total finishes as compared to their opponent's point total. So on an average game, on a given game, the Clippers are beating their opponents by 7.7 points. That's, again, tied with the Lakers for first in the league. I think that correlates pretty well to overall season success and postseason success. So the Clippers are tied for the league lead in point game differential at plus 7.7. And also, I don't want to pump this card, because I'm buying them like crazy, but it's Kawhi's true rookie card. I have a couple copies right here. So it's a lot of people point to his 2012 Prism as his rookie, but his actual rookie year was 2011. He was drafted in 2011. The NBA went on strike in 2011. There was a lockout for, I don't even remember if I can't remember how many games were played that year, like 30 games, maybe 50. It was something stupid low. So there were no, sports cards being made by Panini or Topps that year. So I I have quite a few copies of his 2011 SP Authentic. It does have his college jersey on the card, but he is wearing his college jersey in the card. But it's considered his true rookie card. It's not considered a college card. It is a licensed product. SP Authentic was a licensed product. Those cards are going right now around $200 per PSA 10. Those cards in the bubble and going into the playoffs in the bubble, because the Clippers had a lot of high aspirations, that card that's going for 200 now was going for 900 then. So I'm trying to load up on as many of these as I possibly can, because I'm going to believe that there's going to be plenty of hype behind the Clippers as the playoffs near, and they're for sure going to be a top 2 or top 3 team in the West. And the last guy I'm looking at, honestly, believe it or not, he's probably out of a lot of people's price ranges, understandably so, but you can always buy his lower end PSA 10 rookie cards, is Giannis. He's averaging 27.8 points per game this season, and he's averaging a double-double this season. I think he's averaging like 20 points, 28 points, and 11 rebounds per game. Milwaukee is number 4 in the NBA in point differential per game at plus 7.1. And Giannis last season, like a lot of people forgot about last season. So another kind of like advanced stat that I look at for individual player performance, and to see if a player is a value at any point in time, is player efficiency rating, or PER. So it's basically like it's like the advanced stat of all advanced stats. So it basically measures a player's efficiency statistically over the course of the entire year. In the 2019-2020 season, Giannis recorded the best statistical PER season of all time, exceeding Jordan, exceeding any of LeBron's seasons, exceeding, ever since this stat became a thing, he has the best PER single season of all time, and it was at 31.9. This year he's third, behind Jokic, who's just off the charts. This is like 37. There's no way that's sustainable. And I think he's like 0.07 points behind Luka, which is nothing. So Giannis is still third right now this season in PER. And right now his 2013 rookie select and prism cards are at or below what their prices were at the start of the season. The Bucks may very likely be hyped going into the playoffs again. I think they're going to finish as a top 2 team. I'm a Sixers fan. I'm just waiting for them to kind of have some sort of a locker room implosion at some point. Although I'll take the hype right now. We're a top 2 team in the East. But I think it's going to be really tough to stop Giannis, and he's going to have a lot of hype behind him going to the playoffs. It's only a matter of time until he wins a championship, and it's going to be crazy when he wins his 3rd MVP. Don't know if it's going to be this year, but I think it'll happen inevitably. So I mean, I'm trying to pivot more towards current NBA superstars when the actual GOAT market, when GOATs of the past, when their cards are 10xing, and I'm seeing cards like this that are pretty much staying pretty stable or actually going down. That's the avenue that I'm going to look towards when it comes to NBA, especially.
And that's super in depth. And whether you want to believe it or not, I'm sure Kawhi Leonard's market just got pumped. You just pumped his market.
But I'm not going to sell. I don't even care if I pumped. I'm not going to sell until once they go back to that price that they were at in the bubble, or as the Clippers were advancing in the playoffs. Maybe that's when I'll consider selling some of them, just to play with profits with whatever Kawhis I have left. But I'm not going to sell Kawhi anytime soon.
Hey, look, I believe you. The listeners believe you. The Kawhi buy-in at $200, for some people that's a leap. For a lot of people, that's a great price to get into on a player with multiple titles, with the production that he has, a ton of years left in the tank. Jumping into a guy like Giannis is another level for some people. And that would be, long-term, guy with 2 MVPs already. Again, I would bet against the fact that he'd win 3. It's only happened twice in history in a row, and it hasn't happened since like the 80s. So I don't think you're getting 3 in a row. I'm just betting against it. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's probably not going to get it this year, but I know, guys. I know his select and his prism, especially PSA 10s or BGS 9.5s. They're pretty up there. But you can always go with a PSA 9. You can't go wrong with a 9. Or if you still want a 10, you can always go down to something like a hoops. And I think his hoops look a lot nicer than more modern day hoops cards. So and there's always avenues to get exposure into a great player.
Maybe this is where you've got a friend that's got some disposable income too, and you guys want to split it down the middle to get your hands on a GOAT for the future. But that is certainly one of the players, as you said, I mean, really does everything on the court, and that's a reason why he's won back-to-back MVPs. So we've hit the NBA thing. We got to circle back to football for a second because there was a trade that went down. Some people feel like one team got the better of another. Jared Goff was traded by the Rams to the Detroit Lions for Matt Stafford. Bunch of first-round picks. Went with Jared Goff, and believe it or not, the quote from Jared Goff essentially says, "I'm just glad to be with a team that believes that I'm a franchise quarterback." And the Lions have since said that they believe that he's a franchise quarterback. Now, reports have it that other teams attempted to make a move for Jared Goff. And I do believe that because Goff at times has looked very competent. At other times he hasn't. Some people have pointed out the fact that there was issues with him and McVay, maybe stemming back to comments that he made about McVay's girlfriend. If you haven't heard that, you should look that one up too. Not a good thing to say. Google it in your own free time. So this trade goes down, Jesse, and I'm sure you're well aware. You monitor the market like anybody else. And what did you see take place with Matt Stafford, particularly after this trade?
Nate, I can't remember if we got this question in on time before we went to our Patreon only YouTube live. We were talking about potentially Matt Stafford cards being a buy because his rookie year was in 2009, so Topps still had I believe the exclusive license for NFL cards at the time. So his Topps Chrome Refractor PSA 10 of his rookie card, I think it's a really low pop. It's in the 50s. That card pre 2020, I think 2020 season last summer, it was going for around like $100 or something. It wasn't an expensive card. In August, it peaked at $400 to $450, and then once again, it sold a couple of times during the season. Again, it dropped back down to probably around like $150, $180 or something. We were actually talking during the show. We were certainly talking after the show about his Topps Chrome Refractor PSA 10, and we actually saw one listed on eBay. And the buyer had it, or the seller had it listed for, I believe, 500 or best offer. And we were chatting post show, and I'm like, I'm gonna submit like, I don't know, I'm not gonna really lowball him and submit like $150 offer, but I'll maybe throw out like a $250 offer. And he countered immediately, and he would only go down to like 450 or 475 or something. And I'm like, all right, forget this, whatever. This card isn't worth getting. And then Matt Stafford, like a week and a half after the show aired, he gets traded to the Rams. That card that you could have had in November of 2020 for $150, $180, most recently sold for $1,800 within a 3-month time span. So I look like a fool right now for not accepting that $450 offer, but hindsight's 2020. But I mean, there's always going to be opportunities to buy, even when you think you're not even buying that cheap. Especially if a quarterback in the league is potentially going to be on the move, and there are names that you've tossed around that can also be on the move, whether it be by free agency or via trade. Maybe some aging quarterbacks that still have some talent left and arm strength left to be successful in the NFL. So, it's kind of on us to find that next quarterback that can go to, potentially a contender.
Yeah, Stafford's prices back on 11/19, he sold PSA 10 Topps Chrome Refractor for $150. That same card now has sold at a peak of $1,800. Boom. Crazy. And that's how quick it happens. I mean, we talk about the DFS and other ways of making money, and it's like, if you just hedge your bets, which we should have done. And admittedly, if we had any shot at a Stafford Topps Chrome Refractor PSA 10 for 150, we would have bought it in the blink of an eye. Like, no question. If that was...
I was looking to pay almost double that basically at the time, just because we were talking about him potentially getting moved. We were talking about, New Orleans as a trade destination, or the Colts kept getting mentioned with Stafford. So I figured he was gonna, his name was gonna be, especially the price of his cards were gonna be soaring after, a deal like that. But I didn't realize they would reach almost $2,000 for a Topps Chrome Refractor. But,
yeah, this is where we're at. So it took off, Jesse, and there was a chance. And these are the types of questions that get answered in the live show. And Jesse and I are going to do more. So patreon.com/I'm Outrage. Come join the party. Chat with Jesse. Chat with I. Let's answer some of your tough questions. And Jesse, we need to do that here in a minute. We've got some great patron questions that I want to get to. But right now, Joe Orlando, who is, as he claims in his bio on Twitter, the recognized sports and collectibles expert of the parent company of PSA, I dug up a comment that he had to somebody on Twitter. Basically, somebody asked him, they're like, what even goes into a PSA 10? What do you guys even do? Because we've talked about it. Other people have talked about it. You see a card that's a PSA 10 and you go, man, it doesn't look centered. Or is that corner flawless? Is that surface flawless? Here was the quote from Joe Orlando to somebody that was basically saying, what does PSA 10 actually qualify as a PSA 10? And he goes, it simply has to qualify for the PSA 10 standard, which does not require literal perfection. For example, a card does not have to exhibit 50-50 centering to qualify. Each issue and its related characteristics are, of course, relevant to the final determination. Is that kind of how you've always assumed it was, Jesse?
Yeah, actually, different grading companies are, of the big three, PSA, BGS, and SGC, they're more strict on certain things than others. And each company kind of has its own, part of the grading aspect of grading that they're more strict on. So BGS is very strict on centering. They want top to bottom and left to right centering to be as close to 50-50 as possible. But maybe certain other subgrades, like the corners, the edges, and the surface, they're not quite as strict on. Whereas PSA, they put more emphasis on the corners and edges. So they're really tough on corners and edges. But centering, I've seen cards that I've seen people from PSA that have said they're okay with 60-40 centering top to bottom or left to right on cards, and those cards can still get a PSA 10 as long as everything else is close to flawless. So, every company has their perks about them. I don't really see much wrong with what he's saying. Like, there's not. I mean, as far as the state of things are at PSA right now, there's no PSA 10 black label. There's no PSA 10 gold label where there's different levels of 10. A 10 is a 10. Like, that's their way of saying that this card is just about to as close as perfect as possible. So I don't really find anything wrong with what he's saying. It's just kind of how the company's been grading and handling themselves for quite some time, and I don't really see anything.
Well, I feel bad for the comments that I've made in the past. It's probably why we can't get the president of PSA on the show, because I've offended him on Twitter. He's probably muted me or blocked me at this point, and it's not my fault. I just thought that Wayne Gretzky was a little questionable. I'm sorry to have an opinion.
A lot of people do. It doesn't sound like he's going to be on a podcast.
We're going to get him on a podcast. He's coming on. So, Jesse, I want to jump to some of these patron questions. We got quite a few this week. We're going to try to hit all of them. We're inevitably going to miss a few in our road to doing so. So let's start right at the top from Robert. I'm going to take a crack at his last name because he's since corrected me. Chevalier? Is that right? Is that what we think it is? Chevalier. Damn it! Chevalier. Did it again.
Yeah. Robert, tell which one of us is right? Whether DM or on Patreon, whatever. just say which one.
It might take us 3 full episodes to say it right. So here's the question: Could you talk a bit more on the different grading companies, PSA, BGS, SGC, etc., like cards? Is there one company better than another? And is AI grading, hybrid grading approach, a new thing? Is this a better or worse option? Jesse, I know we've talked about sort of the hierarchy of grading companies, PSA, BGS, and SGC kind of being those three main ones in that order potentially. What are your thoughts on that? And what about the AI stuff?
Yeah, so it's definitely a two-part question. The first part, I I don't really have too much of a preference between one company over the others. PSA is definitely they're by far the most progressive out of any of the three companies right now in terms of what they're like how they're trying to revolutionize grading, um, and have turnaround times hopefully be as reasonable as possible, and they haven't raised their grading prices too much. Um, but I mean, with BGS, you have a 9.5, which is essentially equivalent to a PSA 10, more or less. Um, but the thing that I do like about BGS is that they have most of the time they have subgrades listed on the card. So the subgrades are, like I mentioned before, centering, edges, corners, and surface. I do like to see what kind of goes into the final grade of the card. It's almost kind of like a mini report card to show what a student's GPA is. Like the GPA is the main grade of the card, and their individual grades are the subgrades. So with PSA, unfortunately, you don't get something like a report card when you submit your cards for grading and you get them back, and the grades that you get are the grades that you get. Like, that's it. BGS doesn't really have to give you any sort of report because they kind of have everything listed right there. So all of those subgrades go into the exact grade of the card. And I mean, it's the case is the same for PSA. They just don't have the subgrades listed on the slab. So that's just kind of something I prefer about BGS slabs. Um, Also, I don't know if you've ever. Do you have a BGS
I
slab?
do. I
I can't remember
actually
if
wanted
you.
to complain. I feel like BGS is using too much GD plastic. Why it
No,
I
you,
think
you think
that
so? I mean,
I think
it's
the
like
PSA slab to me, I really love that it's so sleek and slim. The BGS pack is or slab is like it's literally like 5/8 of an inch, a half inch thick.
it's
Shocking.
yeah, it's a thick slab. It's very thick, but I mean, it feels like I feel like I have a BGS slab right here. Like I feel like this card it weighs like a good half a pound. Like it's probably not that heavy, but like, I don't know, I feel like it's super well protected. It's definitely, I don't know if it's like a placebo effect or whatever, but the card just feels way more protected, better protected in a BGS slab than a PSA slab. But at the same time, like, we're talking about BGS 9.5s being equivalent to PSA 10s. People just prefer it at the 10 grade. They don't even care what goes into the subgrades and or what made the card a 10. They just care about the number being a 10, and a 9.5 isn't quite there. It doesn't quite cut it for them. um, but I also have the another part of the question was asking about SGC. SGC, honestly, for me, it probably is playing second fiddle, but I do have one SGC slab. Of course, it's got to be of this card because this is like all I'm buying right now. Um, but I mean, it's a nice looking slab. It's SGC. They only started grading more modern cards probably within the last couple of years. They're more known to the vintage baseball, football, and basketball markets. They're pretty well accepted in those markets, especially baseball. Like an SGC 10 in baseball will go just about for the same price as a PSA 10, if it's like a vintage baseball card. But the black slab all around just kind of makes whatever card is in there pop. And I know SGC has made a lot of improvements in terms of grading and turnaround times and costs and stuff. So I mean, I respect SGC, and I do like the look of their slabs. Um, but in terms of AI grading, so we've gone back and forth a couple times about certain companies that are playing around with or incorporating AI grading basically into their grading altogether. I can't remember the names of the companies off the top of my head, but I mean, it definitely puts those companies on the map. Um, if they're using pretty reliable computerized grading or electronic grading for their cards. I don't know the longevity of those companies in the market, just because especially PSA and BGS have such a stranglehold on the grading market. I mean, I don't know what the goal of a company like I can't remember if it's called like HGI or something, or one is called like CSG. Um, so honestly, the goal of those companies might be to be bought out by somebody like a PSA or a BGS, and basically have their, and as that company is being bought out, PSA or BGS buys that technology from them, so they don't have to worry about, revolutionizing it themselves. They kind of have a blueprint to work with already and incorporate that into their grading. So I think AI grading is for sure going to be a thing in the future. I it honestly could be a couple, just a couple years from now, that it's a thing, and it could honestly be something that professional graders who work for PSA or BGS use to, I guess, confirm or maybe augment their grade. And if they grade the card a 9, but the computerized grading grades it a 10, that might change their minds as to what the final grade of the card should be. So I think it's only a good thing for the hobby to kind of make grading more standardized if it's done
Who knows?
electronically.
Maybe BGS turns it into a subgrade. They turn it into an AI subgrade just to give you another little computer said it's this.
a fifth
Irrespective,
a fifth
like
subgrade.
we're all getting replaced by AI, Jesse. We know it. And the graders over at PSA and BGS are not exclusive to that. They cannot avoid it. It's coming. And, look, you replace the umpires in baseball, you put a robot back there, some cameras, speed the game up by like an hour and a half, we get the hell out of there. Okay. Ryan Stanley, very easy name to say, maybe the easiest of these three. He's got a couple questions in here, and we can kind of rip through a few of these. First question, do you guys buy, sell, trade at local card shops? Are they generally better or worse than eBay in your opinion? Jesse, do you deal with any card shops whatsoever?
Yeah, I have a couple card shops that are probably within like a 25-minute radius of my house. At the end of, like, around the time, I think around the time that the Mavs were eliminated, I bought a bunch of Luca. Like I'm like, I had like a sickening amount of Luca cards. Um, 10 of them were prisms, but a bunch of them were kind of, lower end cards that after a couple months of having them, I didn't have much joy in holding on to them. So I kind of just wanted to take my profits from those cards, whatever profits I accrued, and just move that money elsewhere. So I mean, local shops, most of them buy as well, in addition to selling. Um, but you have to respect it. Like, you have to respect them as a business, because if you feel like you're getting lowballed, and don't take any offense to their offers to you or anything. You're coming to them, they're not coming to you, first of all. And second, they're a business, and they have to keep their doors open and their lights on as well. So don't be offended if you don't get your full eBay asking price for the card. They card shops are smart to this. They're savvy to this. They understand that if you sell something on eBay, you're saying goodbye to 13% of that money as strict shipping fees and eBay sellers fees. So they're going to offer a little bit less than what you might get on eBay, but after taking those fees into account, they might actually offer you more than what somebody on eBay is willing to pay. So it's definitely an avenue to I guess, look around and see if you can make a quick buck at selling at a local card shop.
I've got a card shop over here. It's been intermittently open. I haven't made my way in yet. I'm going to let them know about Clear the Cash. I'm going to say, listen, tune in.
Do it.
Tune into the two guys that are
Official.
That's right. Let me pump your card shop. So, another question on this same one, and you've talked about this before. So, what's your answer to the question of, do you ever buy cards in a lot, like multiple raw rookie cards on eBay?
I still do, depending on the card. So if there is, the card's got to be newer. So I don't necessarily want to buy like, I don't know, like I'll say like a 1993 Topps Penny Hardaway lot. Like, I don't. I mean, I can. It's like Penny's awesome. I do collect some Penny here and there, but those cards have been around for close to 30 years, and they've been like not slabbed or potentially out of cases for 30 years. So I don't know how the condition of those cards are going to be. So I prefer a more modern card. If you maybe look within the last 5 years or so, I'd be more open to buying those types of lots. And be prepared. If you buy a lot, just be prepared for a good amount of the cards to maybe there's a decent chance that they're not going to get a PSA 9 or PSA 10 if you look to submit them. So really look over them pretty closely, because there's a reason that PSA and BGS are so backed up in their grading logs, and there are millions of cards backed up because people are grading anything and everything today. So but if you see a lot that's available on eBay, look at the seller's other listings and make sure they're not selling too many slabbed cards, because they probably, if they're selling a bunch of slab cards and they're only selling this one lot, that probably means a lot of those cards aren't worth grading. So, and they just want to get rid of them altogether in a lot and just recuperate for their losses or whatever. But if they're selling, 99% of what they're selling is all raw, take a shot. And if there's a lot of 10 cards and they're, if they grade a PSA 10, you're gonna make your money back and then some. Be prepared for maybe like 4 or 5 out of the 10 to be potentially grade worthy. So look over each one very carefully. Don't be afraid to ask the seller more pictures of the cards ahead of time before you actually make the purchase. But yeah, for sure, I'm very open to buying lots of 5 or 10 cards at a time, as long as they can be pretty profitable in PSA 9 or PSA 10 condition.
Ryan then asks, shout outs to Ryan for taking ridiculous advantage of this opportunity, by the way. Most questions by any one person. So when it comes to parallels, what's more important? The rarity of a card, serial number, say, less than 49, or if the color actually looks cool, say it's a sub 99 in the team color or gold, etc. What version of these is more important?
The serial number to out of 99 has held more. It's been more of a standardized serial number over the course of time. So it was only, I think it was more Panini and maybe late Tops that started incorporating, like, oh, this card's serial numbered out of 49, this card's serial numbered out of 25, out of 10, whatever. So there's nothing wrong with buying a serial card numbered out of 99. Only 99 copies of those exist. But for me personally, I find that the really cool looking cards, which usually tend to be less or more rare than something that's serial numbered out of 99. So usually they'll be out of like 50 or something, or 75 or 25, whatever. If it's matching the player's team color, or if it's a gold, like I've been showing off my purchases to you, and I've been buying gold football skill position and quarterback cards left and right. I'm addicted to gold shiny cards. Like I don't really know. There's nothing really wrong with it as long as you can get it at a pretty reasonable price. So for me personally, I'll probably be looking at the gold's numbered out of 10, or the gold vinyl's numbered out of 5, or the white sparkle it's rumored to be out of 20, but it's a beautiful looking card. So I find myself more drawn to those cards than anything strictly out of 99.
So we've got Seb Cortez. I'm assuming I said the last name right, but at this point, I don't know if I'm saying anything right or wrong. I apologize. I have brought this up on other shows. This is not my strong suit. You guys want me to talk about crappy dog toys? That's easy. You want me to read people's first and last names? It's hard. There's a very big difference between the two. His question, though, shouldn't be hard for you. I know that you've talked to me about this in private, and this is something that you know quite a bit about. His question is, what's your opinion on StockX? I'm reading really good and really bad reviews about that platform. What are your thoughts?
I don't think we've really ever gone into depth into what StockX actually is. So it's essentially a stock market to buy and sell your card when people are putting in, bid prices. So basically prices that they're willing to buy at, and sellers are putting in their sell prices, which are prices that they're willing to sell the card at. And when the buy and the sell price match, that's when a transaction happens. So that's when a transaction goes through. StockX is essentially a third-party authenticator. So imagine if you sell a card on eBay and you don't ship the card directly to the buyer, you have to ship it to eBay, so that eBay authenticates the card, make sure the slab and the card are both legitimate, and then they ship the card to the buyer. So that's essentially what StockX is doing. StockX is kind of the third-party authenticator to make sure the slab is in good condition, the slab is real, and the card is real. What I really like about selling on StockX is, Nate, you and I have both talked about on this show the GOAT market going up like crazy. I'm not going to name the card, but there was a card that I thought I wasn't going to part with for years and years, and the price went up too tremendously for me to not at least consider selling the card. It would have been financially unwise for me to not at least put the card up for sale. If I put that same card up for sale on PWCC or Probstein, I love both of those platforms as platforms to buy from, just because I know they thoroughly go through every card that gets shipped their way. But maybe for selling, I don't want them to take 25% of the money that I'm going to get from the card just as kind of like a seller's fee. So and honestly, this card that I just sold for 4, 5, 6x what I bought it for, if I ship it out to somewhere like PWCC or Probstein, they have, just like PSA and BGS, they do have their waiting list of cards that they're getting shipped in every single day. So there's a chance that your card's not going to be listed for a couple months. And during that course of time, the card's hot today, but all of a sudden 3 months from now, it's going to dip to 50% of what it is today. And that's not going to be financially like a good financial option for you. And on top of that, they're taking 25% or 20% or whatever of the money that you're actually going to make. On StockX, if you sell on there, they're going to take usually no more than 10 to 13%, especially if it's a high price card. So I personally felt more secure about selling the card on StockX, keeping much more of my money, because I think the seller's fees for me were like 7%. It was a pretty pricey card. So honestly, if you're looking to get rid of a card quickly and you see that the demand is going up like crazy and the prices are 5, 6, 10xing out of nowhere on a card, there's nowhere I would look to sell that card first before StockX.